I pulled into my parents' driveway in suburban Phoenix that Thursday morning. Sunscreen already applied, wearing my favorite floral sundress, my suitcase packed with 3 new swimsuits I'd bought just for this trip. We'd been planning this family vacation to Hawaii for 6 months. My heart was racing with excitement. I grabbed my beach bag and walked to the front door. My mother, Patricia, opened it before I could knock. Her expression was strange, cold, almost smug. She crossed her arms and said the words that would change everything. "You were never actually on the guest list. We figured you'd be fine alone." I stood there, frozen, my smile fading. Then I did something that surprised even me. I smiled politely, turned around, walked back to my car, and drove away without saying a single word. The drive back to my apartment in Tempe took 23 minutes, but it felt like hours. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I kept replaying my mother's words, the casual cruelty in her voice, the way she delivered the news like she was commenting on the weather. "You were never actually on the guest list. We figured you'd be fine alone." I pulled into my parking spot and sat there for a moment, staring at the dashboard. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. This wasn't the first time my family had treated me like an afterthought, but this felt different. This felt calculated. I grabbed my suitcase from the trunk and hauled it back upstairs to my second-floor apartment. The cheerful packing from last night mocked me now. It folded everything so carefully, rolled my sundresses to prevent wrinkles, tucked my sandals into shoe bags. It even bought a new underwater camera because my brother Craig mentioned wanting family snorkeling photos. I left the suitcase by the door and collapsed onto my couch. My cat, Pepper, jumped up and nuzzled my hand. At least someone was happy to see me. My mind drifted to the familiar patterns it'd spent years trying to ignore. When my younger sister Amber got married 3 years ago, my parents funded the entire wedding. $30,000 for a reception at a resort, a designer dress, a honeymoon in Italy. When my older brother Craig bought his first house 2 years ago, they gave him $50,000 for the down payment. They called it an early inheritance, but I knew I'd never see a similar gift. I meanwhile had paid my own way through Arizona State University, working 2 jobs to graduate debt-free. I bought my own car, a used Honda Civic that I maintained meticulously. I rented this apartment with my own money, furnished it from thrift stores and estate sales. I never asked my parents for financial help because I learned early that asking meant owing, and owing meant control. But this Hawaii trip was supposed to be different. My parents called it a family gift to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary. My mother had called me 2 months ago, her voice warm and inclusive for once. "We're all going to Hawaii as a family. 6 months from now. Your father and I are covering the villa. You just need to get yourself there." I'd been saving ever since, setting aside $300 from each paycheck. I worked extra freelance projects on weekends. I skipped dinners out with friends. I canceled my streaming subscriptions, all so I could afford the flight and have spending money for the trip. And now this. I tried to distract myself with work emails, responding to clients about their marketing campaigns, but my concentration was shattered. Around 8 o'clock that evening, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach drop. Venmo request from Douglas Harper. $5,100. The note read, "Your share of flights and villa rental. We covered it up front since you said you'd pay us back." I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. $5,100. For a trip I wasn't invited to. For a trip they told me was a gift. My hands shook as I called my father's number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice jovial. "Blanche, get the Venmo request." "Dad, what is this? You told me the villa was covered. You said it was a gift for your anniversary." "Well, yes, but we still need everyone to chip in for their share. It's only fair." "Fair? Mom told me this morning I'm not even invited." There was a pause. Then my father's voice turned cold. "Don't be dramatic. You're part of the family expenses whether you come or not. The villa was booked for 7 people. We used your name for the group rate. You used my name. The cost per person is lower with more guests. Basic math, Blanche." I felt rage building in my chest, hot and fierce. "So you excluded me from the trip but still want me to pay for it? We didn't exclude you. Your mother said you seemed stressed about money lately. We thought you'd prefer to stay home." That's not what she said this morning. My sister Amber's voice came through the phone suddenly. She must have grabbed it from my father. Oh my God, Blanche, you're being so dramatic. Just pay it. We all have to contribute. You were gifted a $30,000 wedding, Amber. That was different. Stop making everything about you. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in my hand, feeling something shift inside me. For years, I'd accepted my role as the family scapegoat. The one who didn't need help. The one who was always fine. The one who could be ignored, dismissed, used. Not anymore. I opened my laptop and navigated to Venmo. I sent my father exactly $1. In the notes section, I typed, "You'll have a surprise." Within minutes, my phone exploded. The family group chat, which I usually kept muted, was suddenly full of notifications. Amber. Are you kidding me right now? Craig. This is incredibly immature. Patricia. Blanche Marie Harper, you will pay your share, or we will take legal action. Douglas. I'm disappointed in you. I read each message, felt each small knife of manipulation, and then I did something I should have done years ago. I blocked the group chat. Then I opened my laptop and started researching. If they wanted to play games, I could play too. But I'd play smarter. I woke up Friday morning with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I called my boss and took a personal day. She didn't ask questions. I'd been with the marketing firm for 4 years and rarely took time off. I made coffee, fed Pepper, and settled at my kitchen table with my laptop. I was going to find out exactly what my family had been planning. I started with email. I created a folder and began sorting through every message from my parents over the past year. Invitations to family dinners I'd attended alone while everyone else brought partners. Birthday cards with generic messages. Holiday planning emails where my input was requested, then ignored. Then I found something interesting. 3 months ago, my sister Amber had sent me a screenshot of a funny meme about sibling rivalry. But in the corner of the screenshot, barely visible, was part of a group chat I wasn't included in. The chat name, Hawaii Squad. My heart started pounding. I enlarged the image. I could only see 2 messages, both cut off, but one was from my mother. If we tell Blanche it's only 6 months away, she'll stress about money and maybe. The rest was cut off. I went back through my photo backups and found the original image Amber had sent. I zoomed in as far as the resolution would allow. The full message from my mother read, "If we tell Blanche it's only 6 months away, she'll stress about money and maybe decline." There was a response from Craig below it. Perfect. Then we can enjoy the trip without her negativity. I sat back, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. They'd planned this. They'd deliberately given me a shorter timeline. But I needed more evidence. I downloaded a data recovery program I'd used once for a client's crashed hard drive. I ran it on my phone backup files. It took 2 hours, but eventually it recovered deleted message threads, including several screenshots Amber had sent, then deleted. What I found made my blood run cold. The Hawaii Squad group chat had been active for 8 months, not 6. They'd been planning this trip long before they told me about it. I scrolled through recovered screenshots, my hands trembling. Patricia, 243 days ago. I'm thinking Hawaii for our anniversary. Just the core family. Douglas. Love it. Let's look at villas. Craig. Should we invite Blanche? Amber. Do we have to? She always makes things awkward. Patricia. Let's decide later. I kept scrolling. More messages. More casual cruelty. Craig, 190 days ago, found a perfect villa in Wailea, sleeps 7. It's pricey, but if we split it 7 ways, it's manageable. Douglas, who's the 7th person? Us, Craig and Lynn, Amber and Todd. That's 6. Craig, we could put Blanche's name on the booking. Group rates are cheaper with more people. We don't have to actually bring her. Amber. Lol genius. She can house sit and check on Dad's workshop. Patricia. And we can still charge her portion. She's family, after all. I read that message 5 times. They'd planned to use my name for a discount, exclude me from the trip, and still charge me. This wasn't thoughtlessness. This was fraud. I took screenshots of everything. I organized them chronologically in a folder labeled Evidence. Then I kept digging. I found the original villa booking confirmation in an email my father had forwarded to the family group chat 6 months ago. Had been careless, including the full booking details. I clicked the link to the property management website. The villa was stunning. Oceanfront, infinity pool, 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. Rental cost, $21,000 for 10 days. I looked at the guest list on the booking. Douglas Harper, primary contact. Patricia Harper, primary contact. Blanche Harper, primary contact. My name was listed as one of 3 primary contacts on the reservation. I sat back, my mind racing. If I was a primary contact, did that mean I had rights to the property? I needed to know. I called the property management company. A cheerful voice answered. Aloha, Maui Luxury Rentals, this is Maria speaking. Hi Maria, my name is Blanche Harper. I'm listed as a primary contact on a villa booking for next week. Confirmation number. I read off the number from the email. Oh yes, let me pull that up. The Wailea Ocean Villa. Beautiful property. Are you calling to confirm your arrival time? Actually, I have a question. I'm listed as a primary contact, but there's been some confusion about the guest list. What exactly does being a primary contact mean? Mariah's tone became more professional. As a primary contact, you have full access to the property during the reserved dates. You can check in, check out, communicate with staff, request services, everything. All primary contacts have equal rights to the booking, even if I didn't make the reservation myself. Correct. Once someone adds you as a primary contact and you confirm your email, you have the same rights as the person who booked it. And I confirmed my email. I heard typing. Yes, you confirmed 6 months ago when the invitation was sent to your email address. My mind was spinning. So if I wanted to arrive early before the other guests, I could do that. Absolutely. The villa is reserved for your party from next Thursday through the following Sunday. Any primary contact can access it during that time. Thank you, Maria. You've been incredibly helpful. Is there anything else I can help you with? I hesitated, then decided to be honest. This might sound strange, but there's been some family drama about this trip. I was told I wasn't invited, but my name is on the booking. Mariah's voice softened. I've worked in property management for 12 years. Family drama is more common than you think. What I can tell you is this. Legally, you have every right to be there. Whether you exercise that right is up to you. Thank you, Maria. After I hung up, I called my best friend Hannah. We'd been friends since college, and she worked as a paralegal at a downtown law firm. I need your legal opinion on something, I said, and explained everything. Hannah listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Blanche, what they did might actually qualify as fraud. They're attempting to charge you for services they had no intention of providing, and they used your identity to obtain financial benefits through the group rate. What should I do? Honestly, you have options. You could threaten legal action, which might scare them into backing off. Or, she paused, or you could actually go to Hawaii. What? You're a primary contact. You have legal access. They excluded you and used you. Turn it around on them. The idea was wild, reckless, and exactly what I needed to hear. I checked my bank account. $4,200. I'd saved it for a trip I thought was a gift. Now I could use it for something better. Revenge? No, justice. I'm doing it, I said. For the next 3 hours, I planned everything with military precision. First, I called Maria back at Maui Luxury Rentals. Hi, it's Blanche Harper again. I'd like to arrive early, before the rest of my party. Of course. When were you thinking? Is the villa available starting this Sunday? Let me check. I heard typing. Yes, it's available. The cleaning crew will be there Saturday, so Sunday arrival works perfectly. Wonderful. I'll be there Sunday evening. I'll make a note in the system. Do you need transportation arranged from the airport? That would be great, actually. Maria arranged everything. A car service would pick me up Sunday at 6 p.m. Maui time. The villa would be fully prepared. As a primary contact, I could check in whenever I wanted. Next, I booked flights. I found a good deal, $378 for a round trip, leaving Sunday morning. returning the following Wednesday. My family wasn't arriving until Tuesday, so I'd have 2 days at the villa alone, then 1 day of overlap before I left. Then I called Hannah back. I'm going. I need to know how to protect myself legally. First, document everything. Keep all the screenshots, emails, text messages. Second, when you're there, don't damage anything or change the booking. You're simply exercising your rights as a guest. Third, Hawaii is a one-party consent state for recording conversations. What does that mean? It means if you're part of a conversation, you can legally record it without telling the other people. If they confront you, record it. You think they'll confront me. Blanche, they're going to lose their minds when they see you there. The thought made me smile for the first time in days. I spent the rest of Friday preparing. I repacked my suitcase with the same care I'd used before, but this time it felt different, empowering. I added a few extras, a portable phone charger, a small notebook, my laptop. I also drafted a letter. I wrote everything out, explaining what I'd discovered, how they'd used me, how they'd lied. I printed 7 copies, 1 for each adult family member. I planned to leave them at the villa before I left. Saturday morning, my father sent an email. The subject line, "Final warning. Blanche, you have 24 hours to pay your share of the vacation expenses. If you don't, we will pursue legal action. We have already consulted with Craig about the best way to proceed. You are breaking up this family over money, and that reflects very poorly on your character." I didn't respond. Amber posted on Instagram that afternoon. A photo of her and Todd at the airport, boarding passes visible, big smiles. The caption, "Can't wait for Hawaii with the real family members who actually contribute and don't throw tantrums over helping out." I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I just saved a screenshot for my evidence folder. Craig sent a text. "Mom is really upset. Why are you doing this?" I replied simply, "You'll see." What does that mean? I didn't answer. Saturday evening, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a long, rambling message about family obligations, about how disappointed she was, about how I was being selfish and cruel. At the end, her voice broke. "I raised you to be better than this." I saved the voicemail. That night I barely slept, not from anxiety but from anticipation. For years it'd been the family doormat, the one who absorbed their dysfunction and tried to rise above it. Tomorrow, that changed. Sunday morning, I woke at 4 a.m. My flight left at 7:30. I fed Pepper extra food, left detailed care instructions for my neighbor. Hode agreed to check on her, and called a rideshare to the airport. The driver was chatty. "Hawaii? Lucky you. Vacation. Something like that," I said. Security was quick. I grabbed coffee and a breakfast sandwich and sat at my gate, watching the sunrise through the terminal windows. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Where are you? You're not answering. Call me immediately." I turned my phone to airplane mode. The flight was 5 hours and 42 minutes. I had a window seat. As we climbed above the clouds, I felt something release in my chest. Physical distance from my family gave me clarity. I thought about my childhood. I was the middle child, born between Craig and Amber. Craig, the golden boy, smart and athletic, destined for law school. Amber, the baby, delicate and charming, needing protection and indulgence. And me? I was the capable one. The one who didn't cause problems. The one who figured things out on her own. My parents treated independence like a virtue they'd instilled in me, when really, it was neglect. They didn't teach me to be strong. They taught me that asking for help was weakness, that my needs were inconvenient, that love was conditional on how little I required. It carried that lesson into adulthood. I never asked for help. I never complained. I never made waves, and my family had rewarded my silence by treating me worse and worse. The pilot announced our descent into Maui. I looked out the window and saw the island, green and lush and surrounded by impossible blue water. Something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about the trip anymore. This was about reclaiming my worth. We landed at 3:20 p.m. local time. The warm Hawaiian air hit me as I exited the plane, carrying the scent of flowers and ocean. I collected my suitcase, walked outside to ground transportation, and found my driver holding a sign with my name. Aloha, Miss Harper. Welcome to Maui. Thank you. It's good to be here. The drive to Wailea took 38 minutes. We wound through lush landscapes, past beaches and resorts, through upscale neighborhoods. Finally, we turned onto a private road and pulled up to a stunning modern villa. It was even more beautiful than the photos. White walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, a massive lanai overlooking the ocean. The infinity pool seemed to spill directly into the Pacific. A man in his 60s stood by the entrance. He smiled warmly as I approached. "You must be Miss Harper. I'm Kenji, the property caretaker." "Welcome. Thank you." "Please call me Blanche." He showed me inside. The villa was breathtaking. Open concept living area, gourmet kitchen, 6 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. The master suite had a private balcony and an outdoor shower. "Your party arrives Tuesday?" Kenji asked. "Yes. The rest of the family?" Something in my voice must have given me away because Kenji's expression became knowing. Families can be complicated. That's one word for it. "Well, you have the place to yourself until then. If you need anything, my number is on the kitchen counter. We also have a concierge service for restaurant reservations, activities, anything you'd like." "Thank you, Kenji." After he left, I stood in the middle of the living room and turned in a slow circle. This was mine. For the next 2 days, this paradise was entirely mine. I chose the master bedroom, knowing it's what my parents had expected for themselves. I unpacked, changed into my swimsuit, and walked out to the pool. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink and gold. I dove into the water, cool and perfect, and floated on my back, staring up at the sky. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt peace. I woke Monday morning to sunlight streaming through the master bedroom windows and the sound of waves crashing below. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it hit me. Hawaii, the villa, my family's villa. And I was here, alone, living the vacation they'd tried to steal from me. I stretched, feeling more rested than I had in months. No anxiety about pleasing difficult clients, no stress about making rent, no family drama, just me and paradise. I made coffee in the villa's fancy espresso machine, the kind my parents would absolutely want to brag about at their country club. I took my cup out to the lanai and sat watching the ocean. A sea turtle surfaced about 50 feet from shore. I grabbed my phone and took a picture, not to post on social media, but just to have. This trip was for me, not for performance. After breakfast, I called the concierge service Kenji had mentioned. A woman named Leilani answered and helped me book a snorkeling tour at Molokini Crater for that afternoon. "It's one of the best spots in Hawaii," she promised. "You'll see tropical fish, maybe some reef sharks if you're lucky." Perfect. The tour company picked me up at 11. I joined a group of 12 tourists on a catamaran. Everyone else was coupled up or in families. The guide, a local man named Koa, gave us a safety briefing as we motored out to the crater. Molokini was a partially submerged volcanic crater, forming a crescent shape in the middle of the ocean. The water inside was impossibly clear, and when I put my face under with my snorkel mask, I gasped. Hundreds of tropical fish, coral formations, the sunlight creating shafts of light through the blue water. I swam slowly, letting the current guide me, watching yellow tangs and parrotfish and a sea turtle that glided past like an ancient, graceful ghost. Down here, my family drama didn't exist. There was only this moment, this beauty, this peace. Back on the boat, Koa handed out sandwiches and fruit. An older couple from Oregon asked me, "Are you here with family?" I smiled. Something like that. That evening, I explored the area around the villa. Wailea was upscale, with high-end shops and restaurants. I walked into a small gallery and found myself drawn to a necklace made by a local artist, a delicate silver chain with a small wave pendant inlaid with turquoise. The artist herself was at the gallery, a Hawaiian woman in her 50s. "That piece represents going with the flow," she said. "The ocean teaches us that resistance creates suffering. When we move with the current, we find our way." I love that. I bought the necklace and wore it out of the store. I had dinner at a beachfront restaurant, sitting alone at a table for 2. The waiter, a friendly guy probably in his early 20s, didn't treat me with pity for dining solo. Instead, he recommended the fresh catch, and brought me a complimentary dessert. "You look happy," he said. "Whatever you're celebrating, it must be good." "I'm celebrating myself," I said. He grinned. "Best reason there is." Tuesday morning, I woke knowing this was my last day of solitude before my family arrived. They were landing at 3 p.m. I'd see them sometime that evening. I made a plan. First, I went to a local print shop and printed 7 copies of the letter ID drafted. Each one was 3 pages long, detailing everything: the secret group chat, the timeline manipulation, the fraudulent charge, the way they'd used my name for financial benefit while excluding me. I included printouts of the screenshots, highlighted and annotated. Back at the villa, I placed an envelope in each bedroom. Master bedroom for my parents. The 2 smaller suites for Craig and Lynn, Amber and Todd. I wrote names on each envelope in neat handwriting. Inside my parents' envelope, I added a personal note. "I paid for myself to be here with money I saved. You tried to charge me for a trip you never intended to include me on. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation, but I won't be here for it. I'm done being your scapegoat and your ATM. Consider this my notice. I'm taking a break from this family until you're ready to treat me with basic respect and honesty." In Craig's envelope, you wrote that I make everything about me. "I've spent my whole life making myself smaller so you all could be bigger. I'm done shrinking." In Amber's envelope, you called me dramatic for having boundaries. "I hope one day you learn the difference between drama and self-respect." I left a generous tip for Kenji and the housekeeping staff, along with a note thanking them for their kindness and explaining there might be some family tension over the next few days. I didn't want them caught in the crossfire. I'd planned to check out Tuesday morning before my family arrived, but something made me change my mind. Maybe it was the righteousness of my anger. Maybe it was the need to see their faces. Maybe it was just that I'd spent too long running from confrontation. I decided to stay one more morning. I spent Tuesday swimming, reading by the pool, soaking in every last moment of peace. Around 11 a.m. I heard commotion from inside the villa. Car doors, voices. My family had arrived early. I stayed in the pool, floating on my back, wearing sunglasses, forcing myself to breathe slowly and stay calm. Then I heard my mother's voice, shrill and shocked. "What are you doing here?" I slowly righted myself in the pool and looked toward the lanai. My entire family stood there, frozen like a tableau. My mother, Patricia, in her designer travel outfit, her mouth hanging open. My father, Douglas, red-faced already. Amber in her Instagram-worthy sundress looking like she'd seen a ghost. Her husband Todd stood behind her, confused. Craig and his wife Lynn were further back, both wearing matching expressions of shock. I calmly swam to the pool steps and climbed out, wrapping myself in one of the plush villa towels. I took my time adjusting my sunglasses, smoothing my hair. "Let them wait. I asked you a question," my mother said, her voice rising. "What are you doing here?" I walked toward them, flip-flops slapping against the tile. "I'm enjoying my vacation. What does it look like?" Amber pushed past our mother, her face twisted with anger. "Are you stalking us? This is completely psychotic. Stalking you? At a villa I'm legally booked at as a primary guest." I kept my voice level, almost amused. My father stepped forward, trying to assert control. "Blanche, you can't just show up here. We didn't invite you." "Actually, Dad, I can. Check with Maria at Maui Luxury Rentals if you don't believe me. My name is on the booking as a primary contact. I have every legal right to be here." Craig, the lawyer, went pale. He understood immediately what I was saying. Had been the one to suggest using my name for the group rate, and now that decision was biting him. "This is absurd," Douglas blustered. "You're being completely unreasonable." "Am I? You excluded me from a family vacation, used my name to get a discount, then tried to charge me $5,100 for a trip I wasn't invited to. And I'm the unreasonable one." Patricia pressed a hand to her chest, going for wounded mother. "How could you ruin our family vacation like this?" "I ruined it." I laughed, and it felt good. "Did any of you read the letters I left in your rooms?" Amber's eyes widened. She spun and ran inside. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then heard her yell, "Oh my God!" She came back out holding the envelope with her name on it, already torn open. Her hands were shaking. Todd took it from her and started reading, his expression changing from confused to disturbed. Lynn had gone inside too. She returned with hers and Craig's envelope, reading silently. Craig tried to take it from her, but she pulled away, reading faster. "These are private conversations," Amber said, her voice shaking. "You had no right to screenshot our chat. Private conversations about defrauding me? I had every right." Douglas tried again to take control. "This is family business. We deal with this privately. Like you dealt with me privately? By excluding me and lying to me." I reached into my beach bag, pulled out my phone, and subtly started recording. Hannah had coached me on this. In Hawaii, I only needed one party consent, and I was that party. Todd spoke up, surprising everyone. "Amber, this is really messed up." He was still reading the letter, his face getting redder. "You told me Blanche canceled on her own. You said she didn't want to come." Amber floundered. "She's twisting everything." "I'm twisting it? The screenshots are right there. Your own words." Lynn turned to Craig, her voice cold. "Did you really write that she makes everything about her?" "Craig, she's your sister." Craig couldn't meet anyone's eyes. "It was just venting. I didn't mean it. You meant it enough to write it. You meant it enough to plan excluding her for months." My mother tried to regroup, dabbing at dry eyes. "Blanche, please. We're a family. We need to work through this together. You excluded me from the family, Mom. You don't get to decide when I'm family again based on what's convenient for you." "We were trying to spare your feelings," Patricia said, her voice taking on that martyred tone I knew so well. "You always seem stressed about money. We thought it would be easier for you to not come." "Easier for me? Or easier for you to not deal with me?" "You're being so cold," my mother whispered. "No, Mom. I'm being healthy. There's a difference." Douglas pulled out his phone. "You still owe us $5,100. We'll take you to small claims court if we have to." I laughed again. "For a trip I wasn't invited to?" "Dad, talk to your lawyer's son about fraud. I think you'll find I don't owe you anything. In fact, you used my identity for financial benefit without my consent. You might want to be careful about who's threatening legal action." Craig's face went even paler. He grabbed our father's arm. "Dad, stop, she's right. Legally, we're in a bad position here." "What do you mean, bad position?" Douglas demanded. "We used her name on the booking without her actual consent for the trip. We then tried to charge her for services we had no intention of providing. That's fraud. If she wanted to pursue it, we could be in serious trouble." The group fell silent. Amber looked between our parents and Craig, finally realizing the situation wasn't in their favor. Todd shook his head. "I can't believe this. Amber, we need to talk." Inside, he walked away, and after a moment, Amber followed, shooting me a look of pure hatred. Lynn was still reading the letter, her expression growing sadder. "All those things you wrote about Craig getting help with the house and Amber's wedding, while you got nothing?" She looked up at my parents. "Is that true?" Patricia waved a hand dismissively. "Blanche never needed help. She's always been so independent. Or maybe she learned early that asking you for help came with strings," Lynn said quietly. "Maybe she learned it was safer to do everything herself than to owe you anything." My mother's mouth opened and closed. She wasn't used to being challenged. I picked up my beach bag. "I'm going inside to get dressed." "I'm leaving this afternoon. The villa is paid for. Enjoy your vacation." "But I'm done being treated like this." I started to walk past them, but my father grabbed my arm. "You're really going to walk away from your family?" I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. "You walked away from me first." "I'm just finally accepting it." I pulled free and went inside, my heart pounding but my head clear. Behind me I heard arguing. Lynn and Todd both challenging my family's version of events. Craig's voice, defensive and weak. My mother crying. Real tears this time. I went to the master bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the bed. My hands were shaking from adrenaline, but I felt powerful in a way I never had before. I'd stood up for myself. I'd named the dysfunction. Id refused to be manipulated, and it felt incredible. I packed my suitcase in the master bedroom while I could still hear arguing downstairs. Muffled voices, some crying, doors slamming. I didn't rush. I folded each item carefully, taking my time. There was a soft knock on the door. Blanche. Lynn's voice. I opened it. Lynn stood there looking exhausted and sad. Can I talk to you for a minute? Sure. She came in and sat on the edge of the bed. I just want you to know. I didn't know about any of it. Craig told me you'd decided not to come because of work. If I'd known what they were planning, I would have said something. I believe you. Hez downstairs talking to your parents right now. I made him. Hez ashamed, Blanche. He should be. I nodded, not sure what to say. Can I ask you something? Lynn hesitated. In your letter, you mentioned always being treated as the one who didn't need anything. Is that really how it's been your whole life? I thought about it. When I was 8, I broke my arm falling off my bike. My parents took me to the hospital, got me a cast, the whole thing. But the next week, Amber fell off the same bike and scraped her knee. My parents called the pediatrician, made an emergency appointment, bought her special bandages with cartoon characters. They were more worried about her scraped knee than they'd been about my broken arm. Lynn's eyes filled with tears. That's terrible. It was just normal. I learned early that I was the tough one, the one who bounced back, the one who didn't need special treatment. I zipped my suitcase, but kids always need their parents. I just learned to need them quietly, and eventually, I learned not to need them at all. Craig and I have 2 kids. I never want them to feel like one is more important than the other. Then don't make them compete for your attention. Don't treat independence like it means a child doesn't need love. Lynn stood and hugged me. I was surprised, but I hugged her back. For what it's worth, she said. I think you're incredibly brave. After she left, I called the car service. They could pick me up in 45 minutes. I went downstairs with my suitcase. The arguing had stopped. My family was scattered around the living room like survivors of a battle. Amber and Todd were on opposite sides of the room, not looking at each other. My parents sat on the couch, both looking older somehow. Craig stood by the window, staring out at the ocean. I'm leaving, I announced. No one tried to stop me. I walked to the door, then paused. I turned back. I meant what I wrote in those letters. I'm taking a break from this family. If you want a relationship with me in the future, things have to change. Real change, not just apologies meant to smooth things over. My mother stood up. Blanche. Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything, Mom. I'm finally stopping. I'm stopping the pretending that this is normal. I'm stopping the accepting crumbs and calling it love. I'm stopping the shrinking myself so you all can feel bigger. We never asked you to shrink yourself, she said. You didn't have to ask. You just rewarded me every time I did. I went along with all of this because it was easy, because I didn't want to rock the boat. But Lynn's right. What we did was cruel. You wrote that I make everything about me. Tell me, Craig, when was the last time anyone in this family asked me how I was doing? Really asked, and waited for a real answer. He couldn't answer. That's what I thought. The car service texted. They were outside. I walked out without looking back. The ride to the airport was quiet. The driver didn't try to make conversation. I stared out the window, watching paradise slide by, feeling oddly empty. My phone started buzzing as soon as I turned off airplane mode at the Phoenix airport. Messages, missed calls, voicemails. Most were from my family, ranging from angry to pleading. I didn't read them yet, but there was one from Hannah. How did it go? Are you okay? Call me when you land. I called her from baggage claim. I did it, I said. I confronted them. I stood up for myself. How do you feel? I thought about it. Sad, relieved, tired, powerful. That sounds about right. Over the next 3 days, the messages from my family continued. My mother left long voicemails, alternating between guilt-tripping and what sounded like genuine remorse. My father sent terse texts demanding I apologize for making a scene. Amber's messages were angry, defensive, full of blame. But Craig's messages were different. The first one came 2 days after I left Hawaii. I've been thinking about what you said. About how we never ask how you're doing. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want to do better. The second came the next day. Lynn and I talked for hours last night. She helped me see patterns I've been blind to. The way Mom and Dad treated you, versus how they treated Amber and me. How we all just went along with it. How we used you. The third came that evening. I read your letter 5 times. I understand now why you left. Why you had to. I'm ashamed of myself, Blanche. I really am. Can we talk sometime? Not now, I know, but when you're ready. I didn't respond to any of them yet. I wasn't ready. Instead, I focused on myself. I went to therapy for the first time in years. My therapist, a woman named Dr. Catherine Rodriguez, listened to the whole story without judgment. What you experienced is called scapegoating, she explained. It's a family dynamic where one person carries all the blame and dysfunction so the system doesn't have to change. You were cast as the strong, independent one, which gave your parents permission to neglect your emotional needs while over-focusing on your siblings. So it wasn't in my head. Not at all. And breaking out of that role takes enormous courage, which you've shown. Over the next few weeks, I started to understand something important. He looked nervous, holding his coffee cup like a shield. Thanks for meeting me, he said. I'm not promising anything, I said, but I'm willing to listen. That's more than I deserve. He took a breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking. A lot of therapy, actually, Lynn insisted. And I'm starting to see how messed up our family dynamics are. Are. Tell me something I don't know. He almost smiled. Fair, but here's what I didn't know. I benefited from those dynamics. Every time Mom and Dad focused on rescuing me or indulging Amber, it meant less scrutiny on my own failures. It was comfortable. And I sacrificed you for that comfort. I felt something crack in my chest. Thank you for saying that. I want to do better. Lynn and I are serious about this. We don't want our kids growing up in that same system. We want them to know their aunt. The real you, not the scapegoat version we all created. I'd like that, I said quietly. We talked for 2 hours. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of defensiveness, moments where old patterns tried to reassert themselves. But there was also honesty, real honesty, maybe for the first time ever. When we left, Craig hugged me. I know I can't fix this quickly, but I'm going to try, however long it takes. Okay, I said. And I meant it. 3 months after Hawaii, I sat in a therapist's office with both my parents. Dr. Rodriguez had suggested family therapy as a possibility, but only if I felt ready. It had taken me weeks to agree. My parents looked older, smaller somehow. My father's bluster was gone. My mother's usual armor of perfection had cracks showing through. Dr. Rodriguez started gently. Patricia, Douglas, Blanche has agreed to this session as a step toward potential healing. She's not obligated to forgive or reconcile. She's here to communicate her truth and hear whether you're ready to acknowledge it. Can you respect that? They both nodded. Blanche, would you like to start? I looked at my parents. I need you to understand something. For my entire life, I've felt invisible in this family, unless I was useful. You helped Craig and Amber financially, emotionally, constantly. But you treated my independence as though it meant I didn't need you. Children always need their parents. I just learned to need you quietly, and then not at all. My mother started crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen before, but real, broken sobs. I did that. I know I did. I told myself you were strong, that you didn't need the same attention. But the truth is, it was easier. Amber was anxious, Craig was demanding, and you just handled everything yourself. I took advantage of that. My father cleared his throat. I did too. I'm not good with emotions, never have been. Your mother and I, we had a system. She handled the kids who needed handling, and you were the one who didn't need it, except you did. You needed us, and we weren't there. Why did you do it? I asked. The Hawaii trip. Why exclude me like that? My mother looked at her hands. Because you'd started setting boundaries over the past year. Little things, like not coming to every Sunday dinner, or not responding immediately to every text. It scared me. I thought if we planned something without you, you'd see what you were missing and come back to us on our terms. That's not how relationships work, Mom. You can't punish someone for having boundaries and expect them to come closer. I know that now, she whispered. We spent 90 minutes in that room. My parents didn't make excuses, which surprised me. They'd been in therapy for weeks before this, working on themselves, and it showed they weren't fixed. Decades of dysfunction don't heal in 3 months, but they were trying. At the end, my father said, I owe you $5,100. I blinked. What? We tried to charge you for that trip. You paid for yourself to go to Hawaii. And we still owe you for the false charges. Plus interest. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for exactly $5,100. I don't need this. It's not about need. It's about what's right. I took the check. Not because I wanted the money, but because accepting it meant they were taking accountability. After the session, my mother asked quietly, Can we try again? Slowly. Yes, I said, slowly. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation. Amber still refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Shed separated from Todd 3 months after Hawaii. Apparently, the trip had revealed cracks in their relationship, too. She blamed me for that, sending occasional nasty texts that I blocked. But Craig and I built something new. A real sibling relationship based on honesty. His kids started calling me regularly. FaceTime calls where they'd show me their artwork or tell me about school. Lynn and I became genuine friends. My parents and I met for dinner once a month, with Dr. Rodriguez's guidance. Some dinners were hard. Old patterns tried to resurface. But more often, they were good. My mother asked about my work, really asked, and listened to my answers. My father talked about his own childhood, helping me understand where his emotional distance came from. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And honesty, I learned, was worth more than performance. 6 months after Hawaii, I donated the $5,100 check to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. My parents had offered it as restitution, and I used it to help young women who, like me, had learned to be strong because they had no other choice. A year after Hawaii, my family gathered for Thanksgiving. It was a smaller gathering than before. Just me, my parents, Craig, Lynn, and their kids. Amber was invited but declined. I felt sad about that. Sad for the relationship that couldn't be saved. But I didn't let it diminish the relationships that could. After dinner, Craig raised his glass. To Blanche. For having the courage to tell us the truth, even when it hurt. For teaching us what real family should look like. Everyone raised their glasses. My mother was crying again, but this time I reached over and squeezed her hand. Later, as I was getting ready to leave, my mother pulled me aside. I have something for you. She handed me an envelope, similar to the one my father had given me before. Inside was a check for $50,000. I looked up, shocked. Mom, what is this? It's the amount we gave Craig for his house. You were right. We gave your siblings financial help and told ourselves you didn't need it, but everyone deserves support. This doesn't erase what we did, but it's a start toward equity. I held the check, tears blurring my vision. Thank you, she said, for not giving up on us completely. That night, in my apartment, I looked at the photos from my solo Hawaii trip. Me at Molokini Crater, me by the villa pool, me standing on the beach at sunset, wearing the wave necklace I'd bought. In every photo, I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I looked peaceful. I looked free. I'd learned something profound on that trip, something that went beyond family drama, or revenge, or even justice. I learned that being strong doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, that you teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to tolerate. I learned that love shouldn't require you to shrink yourself. Real love makes room for your whole self, your needs, your voice, your worth. I learned that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to refuse to participate in dysfunction. To name it, to walk away from it, and to only return if real change happens. And I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who respects you, who does the hard work of growing alongside you. Hannah called as I was looking at the photos. "How was Thanksgiving?" "Good," I said. "Really good, actually. I'm proud of you. What you did took guts." "I'm proud of me too." We talked for a while longer, making plans to take a trip together. Just two friends, choosing each other, building the family we wanted rather than accepting the one we were given. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and booked a flight. Back to Maui. This time with Hannah. This time with no family drama, no hidden agendas, no painful confrontations. Just two women who'd learned that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's living well. It's demanding better. It's knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. I looked at the wave necklace hanging by my mirror, remembering what the artist had said. The ocean teaches us that resistance creates suffering. When we move with the current, we find our way. I'd spent so long resisting my family's dysfunction, trying to fix it, trying to earn love by being perfect. But in Hawaii, I'd finally stopped resisting. I'd named the truth, set my boundaries, and moved with the current of my own integrity. And in doing that, I'd found my way home, not to them, but to myself. That's the thing about standing up for yourself. It doesn't guarantee that others will change. It doesn't promise happy endings with everyone involved. What it promises is this: you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you honored your worth, that you refused to be small, that you chose yourself, even when it was hard. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that choice creates space for real healing. Not the performance of family, but the genuine article. Messy, imperfect, but honest. A year and a half ago, I pulled into my parents' driveway, excited for a family vacation, only to be told I was never really invited. Today, I have something better than that imagined vacation. I have a family that's learning to see me. I have boundaries that protect me. I have relationships built on truth rather than obligation. And I have myself, whole and undiminished, no longer willing to shrink for anyone's comfort. That's not the ending I expected, but it's the one I deserved all along. So I want to ask you, have you ever had to stand up to family or loved ones who took you for granted? What did you learn about yourself in that moment? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your voice. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own boundaries and worth, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people finding their strength. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's still learning that it's okay to demand better. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you carry this lesson with you. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Your worth is not determined by how little you need or how much you give. You deserve love that doesn't ask you to be smaller. Take care of yourselves. Honor your boundaries. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to participate in your own diminishment. Until next time, be well, be whole, and be unapologetically yourself.